speaking of dividing us, there's another division out there that you talk about in chapter 7, and that is what's true.
Yeah.
Like the truth. And you mentioned this earlier. You mentioned some of the male, female, what is a woman type stuff. You got a section in here where you say when Congressman Mark Takano, a Democrat from California, was asked in a congressional hearing if Mike Tyson declared today that he is now a woman, should he be allowed to compete against women boxers? Takano replied without hesitation, yes. I was speechless for a moment when I saw the video of this exchange. Did he say yes because he really believes Mike Tyson would become a woman simply by declaring that to be the reality? Or did he say yes because he was too afraid to say the truth? There's no logic that can explain this insanity. What is crystal clear is that Democrats like Congressman Takano do not care about women at all, or in this case, the physical harm that would befall female boxers if they were forced to compete against male boxers like Tyson. It's wildness, right? But those are claims that are being made. Like
just like that, without hesitation. Without any common sense, without any qualms about making that statement in the United States Congress. And I think about that as I see, like, the Tyson Paul fight is coming up. And so, you see all these videos of Mike Tyson training and just, man, like even I think he's like 57 years old now. Yeah. And his agility and his power and strength still, you put a 57-year-old Mike Tyson against a 25-year-old female boxer at the top of her game. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's the anti-woman vibe that you mentioned in the book. That's, people forget about that. Like, well, what about the women? I have 3 daughters and 1 son, and my daughters compete in jiu-jitsu and compete in wrestling, and there's a big difference. Interesting. Hey, there are some females out there that win high school wrestling, like state championships, which is awesome. I respect it. Outstanding. But a vast majority, it's not fair. Yeah. It's just not fair, for that to be taking place. I can tell you my daughters compared to young male wrestlers, and my son wrestled too, it's not fair. It's just not fair, period. And to say to do this is actually anti-girl in the high school situation, anti-woman in the professional thing, seems like a pretty fair assessment to me.
Yeah. I mean, and it's based on fact and reality, and it's not a sexist statement to make, to say that there are biological differences between men and women. It is literal fact. And there are differences for a reason. And it's not to say one is greater than or less than. It's just to say, we are different as human beings. It's the thing that kind of drives this home is how for my entire life, the Democrat Party has claimed to be the sole party that stands for women, the sole party that is for lifting up women, and the Republican Party, and they still make this argument hypocritically enough that the Republican Party is against women. And yet the Democrat Party is the one that is not only propagating this insane idea that there are no differences between a man and woman, and they can't even define what a woman is anymore. They are trying to erase the word woman from our language. And they're doing so by beginning to make these changes in language in the congressional House rules, in government regulations, to say, to take away the word woman, to take away the word mother, to take away the word daughter, things that are specifically created to identify someone of the female sex. They're trying to erase now and replace with, ambiguous words like birthing person, or person who experiences menstruation, or a chest feeder. It is the height of hatred and hostility towards women, by those who are doing this. And so not only should we as women stand up and call this out for what it is, but men who love and appreciate women should have the courage to do the same. And that's what's so bizarre about this, is that there is not a single Democrat in Congress, in the House or the Senate, that has done this, male or female. Not a single one. Not a single parent of young daughters, Democrat in Congress, who at some point, if your daughter goes and wants to compete in some sport in school, whether at a young age or in high school or in college, if this goes on unchecked, it's going to get worse. It's going to get far worse. And then what? Your silence and you're going along with this, or worse yet, even you're advocating for this, you're going to live with the consequences of this.
Well, speaking of children and families, chapter 8 here, Families Under Fire. You say this: the elitists ridicule and fight against the freedom of parents to choose where their child goes to school. They indoctrinate our children from a very young age with their narrative about systemic racism, what pronouns to use, sexual orientation, and transgender ideology. They are playing the long game, inculcating their so-called progressive agenda into our children when they're very young and discouraging any real challenge, question, or critical thought. They encourage children to pursue irreversible hormone treatment and surgeries in the name of quote, gender affirming care, often without the knowledge of the child's parents. When parents object to any of this, at a minimum, they are ridiculed on social media, rebuked by the schools and teachers unions, threatened that their child may be forcibly removed from their care, and sometimes even targeted as domestic terrorists by the Biden administration. It's weird that you have to write this kind of stuff, in my opinion. Like bizarro world.
Yeah. Yeah. President Biden stood up a whole new domestic terror unit within the Department of Homeland Security, specifically as a response to parents going to Board of Education meetings and opposing exactly what I laid out in there. This is the United States of America, and this is happening.
Parents versus the government. One of the most troubling elements of the Democrat elite's agenda is the sexualization of young children at the hands of so-called progressive teachers, administrators, and politicians. At a time when our kids are supposed to be able to enjoy their innocence in childhood, running outside, playing pretend, and arguing over whether Godzilla or King Kong would win in a fight, they are instead being asked questions about their gender identities and forced to decide what their sexualities are. They are doing this through children's TV shows and books written specifically for young kids. And you talk about a book in here that you said is just some of the most disgusting pictures that you've seen in your life. It's a kid's book.
Yes. Yes. It's a book called Gender Queer. I had heard about it, and I've heard people talk about how horrible it is. And I just thought, okay, well, how bad could it really be? Maybe you're making a big deal out of something that probably isn't that serious, until I met with some of these parents who are actually courageously standing up and making these points. And they brought a stack of books to the meeting. And so as we were talking, I just, started grabbing some of the books and thumbing through it. And I was shocked. I was shocked by many of these books, but specifically the one I'm talking about is called Gender Queer. And what do they call it? It's a graphic novel and targeted towards middle schoolers. And the kinds of sexual acts that were depicted in these drawings was the worst thing that I've seen. It was disgusting beyond belief in any general sense, but especially within the context of the intended target audience for that book.